Do we have the cheapest gaming phone in 2018 for you? I think we do. Right off the bat, let's open the box. The box is... it could be better. Open it up. Let's see, we have the usual casing inside. I won't go into that. Of course, we have the phone itself here. Inside are your usual accessories that you can find. Yep, nothing has changed here. And of course, the main thing that you want to get into is obviously the phone. Now, right off the bat, the phone feels pretty solid. Slightly rough around the edges. The finish isn't that great, I would say. But overall, a very solid device. Pretty light for the size of the battery that they have inside, which I will get into a little bit later. It has a dual camera. On top of the device, it has a mic. On the left side of it is your SIM card tray. And on your right, your volume up, volume down, and also power on and off. And at the bottom, it houses a headphone jack, a micro USB charging slot, and your speakers. So what's interesting about this new device is that it is catered towards gamers. So I think one of the main and interesting features about this phone is obviously it runs a Snapdragon 636 processor on pure Android, which is a big plus in terms of software and smoothness. You know you're gonna get the buttery goodness straight off from Google, and obviously there are no bloatwares to it. I personally like stock Android. I've been playing around with it, and I think it is just incomparable to any other skins that you have. Comparing it obviously to the Redmi Note 5, which has the MIUI skin. It's a great skin, however there are bloatwares to it, and you don't necessarily want that kind of bloatware. You don't need it to look cute and all, you just want it to be very functional, and the ZenFone Max Pro M1 serves that purpose. And according to the benchmarks done by ASUS on the Antutu score, apparently the ZenFone Max Pro does slightly better than its closest competitor, the Redmi Note 5. By just that little bit, and I think it definitely has to do with the pure Android mix and collaborating together with the Snapdragon 636 processor that makes that little bit more difference. And of course, there is a 5000 mAh battery inside this bad boy for all you guys who don't like carrying around too much power banks or wanting to charge it all the time. This is the device for you, because 5000 mAh of battery will last you quite a while. So that's a lot of hours of gaming, and to be exact, about 11 to 12 hours of Free Fire gaming continuously. That's gonna really hurt your hands. Also, of course, with this big battery, you'll be getting a lot of screen time, not only for gaming, but also for watching all your favorite movies, iFlix, Netflix, YouTube, you name it. And obviously that translates to also a lot of music playtime. So some things to also note is that they have a face unlock and also a fingerprint unlock. Let's just try out how fast it is. Okay, it takes a while. Let's try it again. It's like probably half a second. And for the fingerprint, okay, I'm gonna try it right here. It takes a while, a fraction of a second slower than the Redmi Note 5, to be honest. Now for the cameras. For the 3GB 32 Malaysian version, we are getting an 8 megapixel front camera and a 13 plus 5 megapixel back camera. For the 4GB 64 as well as the 6GB 64GB storage, we are getting both a 16 front megapixel camera and a 16 plus 5 back camera. And so here are some picture samples. Now, how do we put the ZenFone Max Pro M1 to the test? Now, I have here a Redmi Note 5, which we are going to compare side by side. Now, I'm holding both in my hand a 3GB32 version. So this is a good comparison side by side. Now, one thing to note, obviously, this is going for a retail of $699, whereas this is going for a retail of $799. So that's a good difference of 100 ringgit. Obviously, there are some discounts going on and promotions of the ZenFone Max Pro M1, which goes for cheaper. So it is an amazing bang for the buck right now. Now, right off the bat, between these two devices, as I'm holding it, to be honest, the Redmi Note 5 does feel a lot nicer in your hand. It feels more solid, and between the two back cameras, I personally prefer this one. It looks just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more iPhone 10-ish, which I think looks pretty nice. But if you are not a fan of the bump, which this is pretty big for a bump, then you would definitely like the ZenFone Max Pro M1, which is almost clean and nice. In terms of the fingerprint, it's a lot faster, as you can see, just like that, and it's almost instant. Compared to the ZenFone Max Pro M1, just a fraction of a second slower. But maybe to some of you guys it makes a difference, you know, you want things on the go and it does feel a lot faster. So the choice is yours, but obviously the main difference is inside, which both of them house different softwares. One is the MIUI and obviously stock Android. You're gonna get a faster, less bloatware experience coming from stock Android obviously, and more probably unnecessary apps, but nice looking MIUI if you're a fan of that. But being a previous Xiaomi user, I honestly like their software, but I think over time it can get a little bloaty and slow, so I would prefer pure Android experience, because you're just gonna get things really buttery smooth. And with the latest updates coming in, it's just gonna improve almost all the time and at a much faster rate compared to MIUI. The processors on both the devices are the same, a Snapdragon 636 processor. There are two versions here in Malaysia for the Xiaomi Redmi Note 5, which is a 3GB32 and the 4GB 64, whereas the ZenFone Max Pro M1 has three variants, which is the 3GB32, the 4GB 64, and also the 6GB 64. Now the interesting thing is that the 6GB 64 goes for the same price as the 4GB 64 of a price of RM999. So you're definitely getting a much better deal with the ZenFone Max Pro M1. So for these two devices, both of them are promoting two different things, but because this is the closest comparison to the ZenFone Max Pro M1 in terms of specs and price, that's why we're comparing it side by side. Now the Xiaomi Redmi Note 5 is comparing themselves to more camera related features, whereas the ZenFone Max Pro M1 goes for more gaming performance features with a good bang of the buck. Now here are some camera comparison pictures for you. Now, which actually performs better in gaming? Let's find out between these two versions, the 3GB32 versus the 3GB32. Now, to really put them to the test, we will be playing PUBG Mobile, and we're going to start them from the loading time, see which one performs better, which one loads faster, and also how the overall gameplay is. So I have both the devices. I've cleared all the apps on both. Let's see how they run. So the Redmi Note 5 loads faster than the ZenFone Max Pro M1. Now let's look into the settings. Let's just look at the overall graphics and see how much we can push this device. So the ZenFone Max Pro M1 has, let's see how far we can go. Oh, okay. We can only go up to HD and we can put it at high. And for the Redmi, what? They don't even give us an option to pay HD. It just says this option will be available on your device soon. Redmi Note 5, like what the hell? This is both on the same Snapdragon processor, the same gig, but you guys can't get it on HD. So the only option I have is balance and medium frame rate. Now I'm going to play the ZenFone Max Pro M1 on HD high setting and see if it plays smoothly. Versus the Xiaomi, which is only at balance medium. Let's see. Okay, now Xiaomi has started. It's a little bit stuttery. And the game hasn't even started. I'm just running around. Beating some people. Boom, boom. Overall, it's not too bad. Okay. And as for the ZenFone Max Pro M1 on high setting, okay, for HD high setting, I think they're doing pretty well. And I think this is where the pure Android really makes a difference. Because if it can play high settings here, when it has the same Snapdragon 636 processor, I think there's a high chance that the pure Android is definitely helping a lot. So there you have it, folks. In my opinion, the ZenFone Max Pro M1 is definitely the cheapest gaming phone you can buy right now in 2018. And it's even comparable, not to mention cheaper than its closest rival Xiaomi right now, which for 100 ringgit cheaper you can get this model, which comes with pure Android, which gamers would like, a big battery, and obviously an amazing processor. So don't miss this chance out to get this amazing device. And I think finally, ASUS has been listening to consumers' feedback and they're finally giving a product that is worth shouting about and it's worth getting for an amazing price. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys again soon.